Here to review The Secret of My Success from 1987. I'd never seen this movie before. Adam has seen this movie probably many times since the year 1987. He was insistent that I watch it. Adam, credit to you. I did look, and when you look up The Secret of My Success movie reviews on YouTube, the top view count is one video sitting at a whopping 1,600 views. We are striking while the iron's hot. I'm aware of this.
It's the 35th anniversary of this movie. It's a movie I remember watching in the late 80s quite a bit. I still got a great love for this film. What are your thoughts on it, first off? First time watching, now in a 2022 lens on this 1987 movie.
I will start with saying it's certainly 80s nostalgia porn going on throughout this entire movie. Sometimes shamelessly, sometimes, depending on who you ask, maybe shamefully. It's a simple premise, but it's a plot that allows for these actors and actresses to have a lot of fun and put off some pretty good performances, particularly, of course, Michael J. Fox. There were times where I felt like he knew certain scenes were not written that well.
It's a joke.
And he just played the hell out of it. And I can't deny that. He
does such a great job of that panicked personality too. Like anytime he's in a situation that is completely like you would be having a nervous breakdown, he plays that scene and that personality just so well. You know, you had Margaret Whitton, which most people are going to know. She was the bad woman in Major League and Major League 2.
Aside from Michael J. Fox, she was the other standout performance, in my opinion. She did awesome in her role. Those two right there, they were fantastic.
Every single time they were in a scene together was golden. Like when they're in the office together and she's just like, I'm going to have you for lunch. Can I get you a ham and cheese? You know, all that little back and forth banter they were having was fantastic, you know, or even the first time they get together and he's like,
I've disgraced my whole family.
Like hell you did.
Not funny. Okay, this is not a funny moment in my life.
I don't know if deleted scenes exist for this movie, but I felt as though I would have loved to see her dynamic with his buddy Fred. They kind of rushed through that at the end. I understand why, but I think those two characters, we didn't get to see them play off each other very much, and that would have been a lot of fun. I felt like it only seemed natural that they would have worked out in the end.
Oh, yeah. I will say, Margaret Whitton's hairdo at the end, because of how curly her hair is and the fact it creates a triangle shape, very 80s and just amazing and weird looking at the same time. Helen Slater, she was already Supergirl. She was the Legend of Billie Jean, which she had cut her hair extremely short for that movie, which is probably why she had a little bit of a shorter cut in this film, was probably because she was still growing it back from the Legend of Billie Jean. She's also in Ruthless People around the same time as this. I like Fred Gwynne playing the executive, doing
Herman
the takeover,
Munster.
Herman Munster or the judge from My Cousin Vinny, whatever you know him from. Richard Jordan, Logan's Run, Hunt for Red October, Dune, Gettysburg, these are all very familiar faces. And this is just kind of a fun way that they threw them together.
I think overall, sitting and watching this movie, it took me a while to figure out what it was. At first, there were moments where, they have the scenes in Kansas and they're kind of the juxtaposition of New York, which, by the way, is very much an 80s perception of New York. I mean, the violence, the wealth, the rags to riches kind of feeling to it. That's 80s. That right there, I see it, and that's awesome to go through that, because plenty of films that I watched growing up had the same vibes. But overall, I felt as though I couldn't figure out the tone of the movie at times. I felt as though there were moments where it wanted to kind of sort of say something about becoming successful and having this high-profile, well-paying job, and then it kind of would shift and it would go another direction, and I had trouble tracking that over the course of this movie. I don't know if you, in your nostalgia lens, ever felt the same way.
Oh, well, there's a couple of things. Back in the late 80s, Hollywood liked making movies about the yuppie culture. Mm-hmm. And so to a certain extent, this was Michael J. Fox's character trying to get in the yuppie culture. I mean, you almost see it a little bit with the names that they gave his character, right?
What did you say your name was?
Brantley.
No, I mean your first name.
I'm not really sure that a lot of Brantleys would be named in Kansas, but, it's definitely kind of almost a yuppie name. And then Carlton Whitfield for his alias. The romance part of this movie is actually a secondary plot to him just trying to make it in New York and trying to become successful from mailroom to executive.
And that right there is my issue with this movie. It starts out to me as a movie about Michael J. Fox climbing the corporate ladder. Yes, there's a love interest. That's to be expected. The most interesting thing to me was him starting in the mailroom, working his way up. Even to some degree, the whole double life and, sort of imposter aspect of it. He knew how to hustle. He knew how to play the game. And he was seemingly very intelligent. He's cracking books. He's learning the inner workings of the business after being denied over and over and over through these interviews, which also many people can relate to even to this day. The whole getting out of college experience. It was a great little montage. Where I felt it fell flat was the better part of a third of the movie, if not more, just felt more and more who's coupling with who. And there were some great moments, some funny moments, but it felt like it started to veer into that more. It was more about how does he get the girl? And great, but it didn't feel secondary anymore. I felt as though all his hard work kind of took a back seat for too long.
I can see that. Actually, apparently, one of the things I read online, the original script was supposed to be that he kind of gets involved with his uncle's prostitute, and they decided to change it from a prostitute to a mistress in the company. So apparently it had a completely different tone to it initially even. Another interesting fun fact I had read online was there's a scene where, when he answers the phone inadvertently when he's hanging out in that office before he decides to play as an executive, he puts his feet up on the desk and there's a bunch of burn marks in the bottom of his shoes. Well, Michael J. Fox was a real smoker at the time, but his character wasn't a smoker, so he kept apparently putting out his cigarettes on the bottom of his shoes. All the little details that, people may or may not know about or pick up. Like, for example, in the beginning of the movie, when he's kind of arriving in New York and they do this little montage of attractive women while he's leaning on a mailbox, one of the attractive women is the model Cindy Crawford.
Yeah, I noticed that right away.
Another neat little fun fact is the fact that his secretary in this movie...
I'm Jean, your secretary.
I'm not wearing anything.
I see that.
...was the voice of Howard's mom in The Big Bang Theory.
Where are you?
I'm in the toilet!
So, how'd it go?
Too soon to say, I'm not done yet!
This movie had a lot of little montage scenes, right?
A ton of montage. I mean, again, 80s nostalgia porn. That's what this was. And I don't say that as a criticism.
And they just had fun throwing like a good music in the background to go with it.
I did think it was interesting that they used the Yello song. What, give or take a year? No. It was definitely after Ferris Bueller's Day Off. And that was so iconic. And I thought, what? I wonder why they would. I mean, maybe it was just everywhere. I don't know a ton of films that it was in as prominently as Ferris Bueller's Day Off, but for them to use that in this movie, maybe that was just that whole year or two. It was just the song was everywhere. I don't know.
Also, it's got almost no lyrics to it other than, oh yeah. I mean, it's got a few other little lines in there, but for the most part, there's very little lyrics to it. So it worked for the scenes. And I read somewhere, and I don't know how true this was, but some of the choices for, I think Night Ranger made the title song for this movie, and they were going for very much a St. Elmo's Fire sound to the music for the song, which it does because of the success of the St. Elmo's Fire song in the 80s as well. But, in the 80s, the soundtrack was very pivotal to a movie. I don't, whether you're talking about Top Gun, you're talking about Breakfast Club, you're talking about Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
Yeah, pretty much any John Hughes movie.
Yeah, I mean, comedies in general, especially during that time, they wanted to highlight music as much as possible, it seemed like, because it really helped a lot of the scenes and everything like that. I mean, Kenny Loggins was writing themes left and right in the 80s, whether it was for Caddyshack or Footloose or Top Gun or any of the other numerous ones he was writing for in the 80s. It was very much they would pick an artist and say, hey, we need a song for this movie. Here's the title or basically what we're going for. And so make us an anthem, and then they choose a bunch of other good pop songs around that time or artists and get a bunch of other good music in it. And some of the soundtracks in the, some of these 80s movies is fantastic. And this is another one for me. I love all the music in it. It makes those montage scenes work so well by having just a kind of a good song you can jam to at the same time.
Morning.
Hi.
It's certainly an imperfect movie. A good example of imperfection is when he's in the pool and Vera goes to pull his trunks off. It's very clear he's wearing flesh-colored trunks underneath.
I'm glad
right?
you brought that up. Yeah.
I mean,
I totally forgot about it.
That wasn't hidden at all. It's not like The Color of Night where, you get a little glimpse of Bruce Willis's, something. This was, no, he's wearing flesh-color underwear underneath, Yeah,
you could just get a little shaky cam, make it a little bit more distorted. Yeah, right. That was kind of funny to me. I thought, is this underwear? Is this intentional?
I don't know if they only cut that once, and so it was the best they could do in the editing scene, or what happened there. But
another thing I noticed I thought was interesting. I thought there was gonna be a twist in this movie when Brantley first gets in bed with Christy. She was wearing a wedding ring,
and I thought another interesting little.
I was like, is she about to drop on him that she's been married all this time? And then it never came up.
Yeah, I think that was somebody forgot to take off a wedding ring when shooting that scene. Kind of like the coffee cup that inadvertently got left on the table in Game of Thrones.
Continuity errors and,
You got that in every movie. I mean, every movie's got a little bit of
especially comedies. That's almost part of the fun, especially the older comedies, is going back and seeing those. It's gross. I mean, not even just comedies. How many people have just pointed out every issue with like Star Wars that they mess? No one. It just almost becomes like the equivalent. I mean, nowadays, you have a Starbucks cup, like you said, in Game of Thrones, and all of a sudden, it's a meme. Like it's just no one's bashing the movies for those. Obviously, anyone that loves this movie knows it's flawed, and many great comedies that we consider great comedies today. I know that.
All right, favorite scene of the movie. What was your favorite scene?
Conducting the intercourse happening in the other room.
That's a scene that doesn't even have to be in the movie, but I'm so glad it's in the movie.
Credit to Michael J. Fox in the sense that even if the script said he starts conducting an orchestra to the sounds of this, the delivery, there was just so many small things in the way that he handled it with the timing. I don't know.
The popping the beer can at the end. And
yes, it was a scene where I was like, this is genuine. This feels like a very 80s, not just 80s, Michael J. Fox thing. Like it just exuded him in that moment. That's what people go back and watch Back to the Future a million times, like me, for a lot of the reason is a lot of big, incredible moments that he puts out there. Not to discredit everybody else in the movie, because there's plenty of great ones. But when we talk about sort of his charisma on camera, there's just an overabundance of them in Back to the Future. And to me, that moment was in line with some of those great moments of those kind of movies.
The best flustered scene of him, because he, obviously has a few flustered scenes in this movie, is going to be the first time he realizes, he's in the pool house and he realizes he just slept with his uncle's wife. The t-shirt over top of the button up, the whole 9 yards. That was quintessential.
He looked through those blinds a million times. I was like, how's that guy not cleared the yard yet? But yeah, right. It gave him an opportunity to just really act it out, which is well done.
My favorite scene, as far as those two banter though, is going to be in the office. When she starts singing to him and he realizes she's in the office.
I hear music when I look at you.
And Vera.
And just their back and forth they have all the way up until the point that his uncle walks in the room.
She
and even
pounces on him, basically.
Oh, God, and even the fact that she suggests, maybe we should get your husband together with your girlfriend, and then we'll all, kind of connected. I think it's the chemistry that I really like about the characters in this movie as well.
You could have, you could have written a horrifically bad comedy script. Not that this was even close to that. I'm not saying that, but I'm just putting it in perspective here. You could write just an offensively bad comedy script, and you put particularly the leads supporting, like that cast and that level of chemistry, and have them perform it. And I'll watch it again. You know what I mean? Like, so, and this is not that, like, I'm not saying that, but I'm showing you the level, like, in terms of people, direction, writing, whatever, the floor almost doesn't even matter because of how well it was acted, performed, what have you.
Yeah, this movie wasn't made to win awards or anything like that, or to just destroy the box office. This was obviously made because Michael J. Fox was extremely popular at the time, because this was shot in between a couple of seasons of Family Ties. Yeah. And this is after Back to the Future. So this was absolutely capitalizing 100% on Michael J. Fox. Final thoughts on it. For me, I still love this movie. I will probably watch it in my lifetime another 20 plus times, I'm sure. I don't know. What are your thoughts? Would you recommend this to somebody who is looking for something that, a comedy to watch that they might not have seen?
I think if there was somebody that can appreciate comedies of that time, of that era, 80s, 90s, what have you, and I found out they had not seen this, I certainly would recommend it to them. Now, would I, to each their own, if it was someone that just wanted to see a good comedy in general, it's not going to be certainly among the top of the list by any means, but I'd probably give it like a B-, C+ maybe on a bad day. If I had watched this movie growing up, if I had seen it for the first time in 1987 and I watched it a million times since then, I would consider this among one of my favorites. I could see that happening. So I can appreciate it, like I said.
So you can appreciate my obsession with, like, you need to watch this movie.
Totally. Absolutely. Yeah, no, because I've got my own list that is similar, and I can definitely see where, yeah, by the way, this is a movie that I got to know my audience when I'm going to recommend it. I've got way more on that list. But this would be definitely one that if you love 80s movies, if you love 80s comedies, if you love comedies in general, that you can appreciate something that's a product of its time and get that nostalgia feeling, or just get the, maybe it's not even nostalgia. You just want to know what the 80s feels like. Watch this movie. Sure. Yeah, I would recommend it in that regard.
All right. Well, that's our thoughts. And, if you've got a love for this movie, we'd love to hear your thoughts. If there's other little moments of this movie we didn't talk about that just, stand out that you think are great, definitely leave that in the comments below. If you've never heard of this movie, maybe this review, if we haven't completely spoiled the movie, will make you want to at least check it out.
If you haven't heard of this movie and you're watching this ending, like I want to know you. I want to meet you. I'd like to get to know what your story is. Please tell me.
In any case, we appreciate it. And until next time, this is Adam and Andrew with It Takes Two Takes. You got yourself a drink? I am drinking Stone Cold Steve Austin's Broken Skull IPA. Okay. That's the bottom line, because Stone Cold said so.